Beirut presents DJ Rupture.
Hello, thanks. So yeah, my name is Jace Clayton. I make music as DJ Rupture. Speak up. Okay, and I'm not good at fighting these loud sounds. And this room is so interesting, the way it's like we've got beanbags and relaxation and sometimes heavy discourse, total noise and distraction in the back. It actually reminds me of performing in a club environment where people can come into the music at their own angle in their own way, and what they take from it is fairly independent of what I'm offering. But yeah, I'm here to talk a little bit about DJing, what I do when I DJ and how I think about it, but mostly I'm going to be describing a new music software project I have called Sufi Plugins. And one of the main reasons I'm not going to talk about DJing is because tonight at 11 at Kun, I'll be doing a DJ set. So that's the best way to come experience it loud, in motion, with your body. You know, music is it's meant to be a participatory thing. But one important thing in how I think about DJing is narrative. It is, back in the Bronx in the late 1970s in New York City, where I'm from, people, mostly Jamaicans and Latino immigrants, were taking records, which up until then were considered a consumer device. You would put on a record and you would listen to it. And they were taking record players, which again, up until then was considered just a mere playback device. It wasn't a tool, it was something you'd use to receive information and nothing more. And what they did up there in the Bronx was throwing street parties, taking over the block, putting together the records and the turntables and thinking, instead of just receiving this music, that's not enough. What if we can start cutting between these records? What if we can start mixing these records and combining them? What if these records aren't just talking to us, but we can think of them as words with which we can talk and we can express ourselves? So for me, the birth of DJing was in that moment where something which was considered pretty much a consumer device turned into a tool, turned into the hands of kids without a lot of money, with very few resources, and who are using that to make this incredibly potent cultural expression. The kids from Tripoli afterwards are going to be doing their hip-hop thing. So that's one aspect of DJing which is very important to how I think about things and what my practice is. And another one is, especially because I have wide open ears, I like to listen to music from many different places, I'm always interested in how music socializes. Not in song as MP3, song as immaterial culture, but song as memory, song as emotion, and all these things, all the sort of hyper-specifics, the sort of information you need to go to a place to understand. And so that's why I chose this picture in a way to open this with. This is my friend John Francis Peters and I, we spent a month-long project in Morocco. And these are one of the many photos he took, but it's a place which has informed me a lot musically. But I'm going to move on to, here we go, escape. This musical project I have is called Sufi Plugins. And Sufi Plugins emerged when I started working in Barcelona with this man over here on the right, a Moroccan violinist named Abdelhak Rahal. And I was there using my Cubase and Fruity Loops and Acid and all these different pieces of software. And we would sit down and work on songs together. And I had this moment where I was playing some fairly standard, to me, beat, a 4/4 beat, like something that would work in a hip-hop scenario. And Abdel just it wasn't comfortable to him. He didn't quite get it. And he's used to all these incredibly beautiful, beautifully subtle Moroccan polyrhythms. And for him, me opening up this software, which defaulted to 4/4, defaulted to 120 BPM, it didn't click with how he learned music over the years and over the decades. And then conversely, there'd be other times when Abdel would be playing a beautiful violin melody using quarter tones, which are so common to Arabic music, so common to music all over the world, and yet the keyboards and synthesizers that I had couldn't play those tonalities. And so I started thinking of ways in which Abdel and I could start to work together beyond that, and as things improved and went on, and I was able to sort of wrap my heads around the technology a bit more, I began this project called Sufi Plugins. And what Sufi Plugins is, basically it's a suite of free music software, but it's software based around non-Western, based around lyrical, based around poetic conceptions of sounds. And so right here, this is what one of the four synthesizers in it looks like. It's called, this particular one is called Bayati. It's named after a maqam. And as you can see, it's all clearly labeled, except that the language we're using to label it in is Berber. You know, about a third of the people in Morocco are Berber and speak Berber. And this is a script they have, which is a Tuareg script, thousands of years old. And here it looks very sort of sci-fi futuristic. But this is our synthesizer, and unlike the vast majority of software synthesizers, this one is hardwired to musical scales you're going to find in North Africa and across the Arab world. So you can't play a Beatles song with this synthesizer. You can't play a Black Lip song, but you can, you know, get your Farouz on, get your George Wassouf on, and do other types of things. And for me, this whole software project began as knowing that about 90% to 95% of music software is made in either California or Germany, thinking about all the assumptions, that are embedded in that software. And it starts with the scales, it starts with the BPMs, but it goes on. And so I was interested in a really holistically ground up approach, somewhere between software on one side and perhaps art on the other. And this is what emerged. And I'm going to show you a clip of one of the videos. This is, in the world of software, in the world of tech art, there's a lot of instructional videos online. And what these instruction videos, they're very literal in a way that, as an artist, I don't generally agree with. So here's a video we did for one of these Sufi plugins. The plugin itself is called Drone, and it's used to create a drone. And this is all the documentation we have for it. This is what we offer users once they download it. I'll just play a minute or so you get the idea. And this is for free online. You need, at the moment, you need Ableton Live to get the Sufi plugins, but we're working to make them VSTs, which are much more widely shareable, so you can use them in Logic or Cubase or Fruity Loops or whatever it is. Can we get audio on this? So all the audio you're hearing is made with this Drone tool that's part of Sufi plugins. And to me, Drone is a really interesting way. It's an example of how these plugins are trying to think about music differently. For example, you know, a pop song, 3 minutes, and 5 minutes, whatever. Drone music is, to many people, it's a way of, instead of focusing on the song as a timeline, drones are ways to emphasize space, to emphasize texture and duration. It's almost as, it's like the architecture of music. A drone fills the room like an environment, much more than a sound. And so that is one of the ways in which I'm hoping that these plugins will sort of help and encourage people to think about music in different ways. And as you can see, this is the footage. It's fairly abstract, fairly open-ended. But I really do want people to, rather than come to me and say, well, how does drone work? I want them to open up the video and think, okay, the spirit of the thing is as important as any direct technical information that you might want to address with it. And with a lot of issues of remix culture and DJ culture, people like to talk about, they like to celebrate the remix. They like to celebrate a kind of postmodern fluidity. You can take any sound and make it any other sound. And I'm actually fairly against that. You know, I like blockages. I like to dramatize blockages so we can think about, you know, what does it mean to click on a like or to click on a dislike? What are the presets that are embedded deep within our software? And so, all these Sufi plugins, here's another one. This is a drum machine. They all have this sort of open-ended user design. And in each one, as you roll over your mouse, little fragments of pop-up text will come up. But instead of saying, oh, this adjusts the number of hands, this adjusts the volume, it's pieces of Sufi poetry that will emerge from these pop-up texts. And now I'm going to play a quick video which shows them in action so you can get a better idea of both what they sound like and to see how the user interface is different. Here we go. Ignore, don't send. So now all these sounds you're going to hear are made with this suite. This is what the drone one looks like as the interface. So that's a little introduction. Thanks. And yeah, it's nice stuff. And in the broad picture, listening to some of today's conversations, I think, at least in New York, there's a lot of talk about big data and people who want their app to sell 1 million copies and be totally scalable. And a lot of this reflects my deep-rooted interest in doing small scale on the projects, totally shareable, totally open. If you can program MaxMSP, you can take open the guts and code on their own. But I'm very interested in small data, in like the way a certain melody might speak so much to someone. And as part of this, the next step for Sufi plugins, the sort of second version, will involve me hopefully going to a specific place, most likely Cairo, As-Salam City. Guys like DJ Figo and Amir Haha are making amazing new Shabi music. And so for that second step, it'll be going there for a while, spending a week or two with them, seeing what sort of tools they can't do with their current setup, and then working with a coder to help build those tools. So instead of thinking, I'm going to make this program and send it out to the world for everyone to use, it's like, you know, I'm going to take a bunch of coders and friends from New York. We're going to go to a very specific spot and make a piece of software for 2 people. and we're going to share it, but that's the goal, kind of inverting those power relations. And I think we're going to have a Q&A in the back in a few minutes, but thank you.